Okay, I'll try to get this from falling over because I'm on the back porch. Um, on the back porch, just trying to enjoy the day, trying to rest for a minute before I have to make lunch. And yes, there's a coyote hanging behind me. Um, but I've noticed a lot of stuff on the internet the last couple of days that I thought I'd come on here and talk about. And a lot of it is music. A lot of what I'm seeing with the people that are looking into these. Hey, April. And a lot of the things that I'm seeing about people that are looking into these true crime stories and coming up with theories, ideas. They're catching a lot of hate from people, and a lot of people are not. Hi, Cindy B. Hi, Megan. Cindy, let me know if you received your package or when you do. But I've noticed on the internet here lately, because I've been watching a lot of the recommended on YouTube lately, just because I'm not sleeping well, so I'm letting it cycle through. And I'm watching a lot of people that are doing a lot of their own interpretations of missing persons cases, especially the Kylie Rodney case and everything going on. And I've been recommended several pages, and like I said, I went to Psychobabbles page the other day. I made the horrible mistake of allowing the recommended to go back to Psychobabbles page the other day. I should have just clicked on it and been like, not interested, but I let it go back through. Hi, Clara. And I thought, man, I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that because, I have to get curt sometimes, and I have to create a boundary sometimes, but it's almost like you're going into like a prize fight every time you go into his lives or his videos, because he is so combative with his language, with his body language, his facial expressions, his tone of voice. It's all very kind of uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable. Oh, good. I'm glad you received it. Good. So I made the mistake, and as soon as he started harping, it roused me up where I was kind of dozing. Yeah, I watched him the first time and I was like, oh, I tried to thank him for his expertise, because he actually had an area of expertise that was useful. And I thought, that's great. That was so nice. And then he starts, like, he was ragging on everybody, and he was saying a lot of things about, if you're not willing to call out Ryan and tell him what he's doing is wrong, then, you're not really Creek Squad, and basically equated everyone that is a fan to a crackhead. But then I'm sitting there, and if people disagree with him, he does the same thing. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So if people question you, they're stupid and incoherent, incompetent, but they're supposed to question Ryan. And I'm like, dude, you can't have two sets of rules for the same world. You got to have the same set of rules. If if you're trying to establish this continuity of a claim that you've got going on, you've got to have the same consistent rules here, buddy. But one thing that he really irritated me about, and this really irritated me about, because mental health is not something that is understood very well, especially some of the more serious and dynamic diagnoses. And they have a very traumatizing, targeting, crippling effect on the people that get labeled with the diagnoses. So it's very difficult and very disrespectful when you just start throwing out diagnoses, and you start throwing out the mother of all diagnoses, which is paranoid schizophrenic. And so I started basically saying that he thought Ryan was a paranoid schizophrenic. And I thought, okay, no, we've jumped from, okay, now if you have a feeling that your friend may be doing something that might be harmful, you need to tell them, to now everybody in Creek Squad is supposed to tell Ryan he's a paranoid schizophrenic. We're getting some tall orders here, Mr. Babel. Get some tall orders, and I'm not really sure your first name should be Psycho. So it was kind of frustrating for me. If we all played by the same rules, wouldn't it be a much better world? Would it not be a much better world? So I watched that and I was like, listen, let me come on here and say something. Because I don't know if anyone else has addressed this or not. Ryan is 30 years old, heading on to 31, I believe. The difference between male and female brains are that females are normally diagnosed if they do have paranoid schizophrenia. They're normally diagnosed in their childbearing years when the hormones greatly change and life becomes very trying. It's the ultimate culmination of FUBAR. If you have anything that's maladaptive or any kind of maladjustment previous to that, or any kind of other issues that are compounding, that is the time when it's going to present. For young men, because it hits them, puberty hits them so hard earlier in life, they can actually normally be showing signs as early as 15, 16, and they're normally diagnosed by 18 to 21 at the latest, because the hormones hit them earlier and harder, and life gets rough real quick. And sad to say, puberty is kind of what starts off a lot of issues, and a lot of issues showing up pronounced enough for families to have questions. So Ryan, at the age of 31, having all of these platinum and award-winning albums and these wonderful lyrics and songs that touch people's hearts, and this great way to communicate with millions of people. And he openly talks about his ADHD, which he has harnessed to think for him in an incredible way. And yes, his mind doesn't click like everybody else's, but I think that's a beautiful thing. I think we all think differently, but I really appreciate the way that he has harnessed that extra energy and that extra channel clicking that an ADHD brain does. I think it's remarkable. But he would not be able to do these things if he had a diagnosis like that. He would be so unable to understand a social contract and how to function within society. And he would be so emotionally inconsistent. And he would probably suffer from, a lot of other comorbidities and a lot of other diagnoses along with that. That the difficulties that he would have would be so pronounced, he would not be able to do the things he's done. So I thought that was very incompetent, uncaring, and deceitful for someone to come on and say that. And they said it, which really irritated me, from the basis apparently of a family member that they verbalized, identified, and stated had that issue. Number one, listen, I didn't stay long enough to see if the family member he was talking about was present or came onto the live, but that was a HIPAA violation. If anyone could construe who you were speaking of, it's a HIPAA violation. And number two, it's inappropriate to talk about someone else's mental health battles. It's very sometimes very much a sore spot for them and can cause them to actually go downhill and have problems. But I just thought it was very inappropriate. And I thought some of the things that he was requesting was kind of like a catch-22. He wanted everyone to call Ryan out, but no one can call him out. He wanted everyone to tell Ryan that his questions and opinions on ideas were stupid and that he was a crackhead, but you cannot question his ideas because, he holds himself in a high regard. Well, we need to hold each other in a high regard. We need to understand that opinions, ideas, they are not mental health emergencies. They are thought patterns. We all have different thought patterns. We all have different cognitive abilities and different ways that our cognition functions. And that should be a blessing in disguise. We should all come together and work on things and accept that we all function a little differently, use it as a strength rather than a handicap, and help each other. And I think that what we're learning from a lot of these channels is just how weak the thread of our society is. It's broken, it's tattered, it's coming apart. And we're more concerned with how we present ourselves and having dominion over others than welcoming others and their opinions and ideas and putting them on the same level as ourselves. So I just wanted to come on here and say that. I thought that was just inappropriate, unnecessary, and kind of harmful for people that do have diagnoses, and maybe find support on the internet, and maybe stumbled across that and could have had a really bad experience from listening to someone talk about it so harshly, so uncaringly, and so with just such a just such a militant view, as if it's not flexible at all. Mental health is something that in most cases is a spectrum. I know everybody's heard about that as for autism, but it's very much a spectrum. It's a spectrum of when it presents, how you have maladjustment periods, if you become maladaptive in life, if you struggle, if you have issues that last more than 6 months, if you have social distress or internal anxiety or other things. It's a whole recipe of things that either can present independently or together. But when you try to put the great mamba jamba paranoid schizophrenic on somebody, and be careful, okay? Because I sit here with my master's in psychology, and I've counseled, and I have supervised murderers, and I have taught cognitive behavioral therapy, and I understand how careful you have to be. And while I was very happy to hear Psychobabble tell me information about a Honda CRV because he is a mechanic, I certainly hope that people understand that you should not take psychology-related advice from a mechanic, even if he has a family member that struggles. Many times, if we have family members that struggle with things, we still barely know the surface issue of what's going on unless you are a direct caregiver. So it's just one of those things. We need to be careful when people start acting like professionals, and they start being very dogmatic and unappreciative. And we need to start to respect thought patterns and people that have different perspectives and different cognition than us. Just because they're different doesn't mean they're disabled, depleted, or incompetent in some way. I was really bothered by that. Very much so bothered by that. I can get hateful with anybody that gets hateful with me. But as far as calling people names and labeling them in such a devastating and destructive manner, no, not really going to do that. We can have differences and talk about politics and society and stuff like that all day long, but I'm certainly not going to put you down or try to belittle you or try to create a momentum for people to think that you have one of the most troubling, serious, and honestly dysfunctional mental health issues and diagnoses out there. And for anyone that actually is struggling with a mental health diagnosis, or even anything smaller, such as depression or anxiety or social anxiety, be careful who you listen to. And take it with a grain of salt. Keep an open mind. But make sure that you keep what you know about your disorder, your mental health, between you and your physician, your psychologist, or your therapist, and not between you and a YouTuber. Even though some of us are credible and have degrees, it should always be between you and your mental health provider. And that's just kind of what I wanted to say. But I know Ryan does things a different way. I think that's why most of us really gravitate toward him. And different does not always mean despicable, disabled. It just means different. And I don't know when humanity got on the kick that if you're different than me, you're less than me, um, because that's not true. It just means you're different. But we should all put each other on the same line with each other. We're all human beings. We should all respect each other. And these small differences that people are pointing out and trying to turn into, they're trying to make mountains out of a molehill, just to be quite honest. Um, yeah, that irritated me. That really irritated me because to someone that's struggling that happened to catch that in the manner that it was stated and the brashness and the harshness of the wording, it could really have hurt someone. And it could really hurt someone. Um, well, yeah, I mean, most mental health issues are related to chemical imbalances in the brain or brain damage or long-term maladaptive behaviors that become learned behaviors. So, I mean, you just have to be so careful. And I try to speak really clear and normal when I talk to y'all so that you can understand. But I wanted to come on here and clear that up because even people that are diagnosed with something like paranoid schizophrenia, they have moments of clarity. They have moments of brilliance. They have moments where they function. They're human. And while they may struggle and they might have melancholia and they might get lost in the shuffle and they may have cognition issues and they may have unfounded belief patterns or behaviors that are not established in reality 80% of the time, when they do have those moments of clarity, they're still a human being and they still want to try to belong in society and function. And they don't get to do that as often or as readily or as easily as most of us. But if someone was having a decent day and stumbled across that and saw that, I would hate to think how that would have impacted them. Yeah. So I think that's all I needed to say. I've had a big morning. I've already been to the leather shop with David, which was great. I got out of the house. It felt wonderful. The electricity went out here for like 3 hours this morning, just gone. We don't know what happened. I'm trying to figure that out. It's back on now. We've gotten back, done a couple things at the house. I've got a mess to clean up where we crafted all weekend, and I'm still going through baby clothes. So I might try to pop on later and talk to you when I craft, but I just wanted to clear that up and say, we need to really behave better, especially if you think you're an outstanding human being with no maladaptive behavior, no maladjustments, and you've got life down to a T. You should really hold yourself to a higher standard. So if you get on the internet and you start talking poorly about other people and you start trying to diagnose people in the mental health, components, and you're a mechanic, I'm going to question your motivation. Because I certainly wouldn't get on here and pick apart a mechanic and call them names because I have no foundation of knowledge to do so. So I certainly wouldn't berate or belittle a mechanic and tell them they were lying and that everyone should back me and call them a crackhead because I didn't believe that they were truly a mechanic. It's like, reverse the scenario and you really see how stupid it comes out. And I just want people to be more aware when you're online, be more aware how you project yourself. Yes, sometimes you have to have boundaries and you have to be curt and you have to have strong words, but you can say it in a loving, compassionate, and educational manner so the people still want to spend time with you, but they know the limits, they know the line. And that's how you create a safe place for your subs. And I watched that. I woke up and watched that, and that was just a volatile environment, and I did not enjoy it. I did not enjoy the speech pattern, the word choices, the body language, um, the facial expressions. I did not enjoy any of that. And I felt like I was in a high school class where the teacher was like 2 months away from retirement and he was just forced to teach that class and he hated everybody. And I was just like, ah. So I didn't enjoy that. And that's not to say that some things he says does not have merit. There are some things that he has offered toward some of these ideas and these cases that does have merit, especially when it's vehicle projected or mechanically inclined. He's got a wealth of knowledge in that regard. It just really bothered me to see him jump so far onto the hate train. But then when people questioned him, that you were not supposed to do that. Question everybody, even me. Do it courteously, do it respectfully, but question everybody, do your own research. And be very careful who you interact with, how you interact, and how you speak of others. Because you know something, that is still someone's loved one. That is still someone that you could impact. And I would hope that everyone would want to impact someone in a positive way rather than a negative way. Even if you have to put down boundaries, do it in an educational and courteous manner to where they know, hey, listen, this is not going to fly here, but I can come here if I follow the rules. People don't mind rules. People like rules. They like structure. They don't like being attacked and being belittled. And I wonder why we have so many huge creators when that's all they do. It boggles my mind, but society needs to really work on itself. But yeah, just as someone who's worked in the mental health field, that bothered me. So I wanted to get on here and say my piece. And that is my piece. And now I'm going to go cook David lunch. And then I'm going to have to rest. And then I'm going to have to clean my house and finish some craft items. I'm having a decent day today, body-wise, RSD-wise. So I'm going to try to do a little bit more than normal. And I'm hoping I don't crash and burn here in a day or two. So toss up some prayers for me. And I hope that the consistency that I've had, other than the other night when my legs hurt really bad, I'm hoping the consistency and the abilities I've had during the day kind of hang on for a week or two so I can get some things done before fall hits and I know that the bone pain will increase. So I'm just going to try to enjoy these beautiful days that are not too hot and give me a little bit more mobility. So, but I will try to hop back on tonight when I craft and have a sit down and just catch up. I am watching some stories. I have one that I'm watching super close about the lady jogger her body was found, sadly. And I'm trying to get the rest of the information on that for possible discussion because that's also a very interesting story, possibly about the failure of the prison system, the justice system, and the parole release options. There's a lot that can be discussed there. If I get it all together, wrapped up in a nice little pretty bow, we'll see if we can talk about it. But I will be back on later. And if you have interactions with people on the internet today, try to be courteous. If you have to be stern in a respectful and responsible manner. And let's try to build up the good vibrations and energy in this world because you know something? Boy, it's needed. All right, I'm going to go cook lunch. I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.